If your e-com brand is doing over 7 figures a year in revenue, then in this video, I'm going to show you why more ads mean less profit. Now, what do I mean by this statement? So we know in e-commerce, for most e-commerce brands out there, the more money you spend on ads, the more money you pour in advertisement, testing creatives, testing your strategy. And in general, the more money you spend on ads, the more traffic and eyeballs you get to your store, obviously assuming you have somewhat of a decent creative strategy in place, which if you are at 7 figures plus a year in revenue, it means you probably are. And more traffic obviously means more revenue. Now, if you go back through this formula, instead of going forward, you go backward. It means that if a brand wants revenue to go up, so let's say they're scaling too slowly, they're not making enough money, they want more revenue. And in general, every single brand out there and every single business wants more revenue, wants more money coming in. That means that you need more traffic to come in, you need more eyeballs on your product, on your brand, on your funnels, and that in turns mean that you need to spend more money on ads, you need to test more creatives, test different influencers, test different angles. In general, you need to spend more money on advertisement. The big problem with this approach is that if you hit a plateau here, as we said, with revenue, you need to increase your ad spend, you need to spend more money on testing stuff and just putting out different creatives and different ads, and this means you're going to test more angles. So let's say like all of the things that go under the advertisement head. So more selling angles, more different marketing, let's say different creatives, things like that. Testing, probably if you're testing using influencers, if you're doing UGC, then testing different influencers with different angles. If you're doing statics, then testing maybe different images, different headlines. So let's put also headlines in there. Testing different offers, all of that stuff. All of these things go under the advertisement head. And when brands hit a revenue plateau, so they're not getting enough revenue in, they bang their head against the wall, testing all of these different things multiple times. But this has a diminishing return effect over time. Why is that? Let's use as an example a little timeline here. So we have a graph, we have a timeline, and over time, obviously, brands tend to spend more money on ads. And let's say that this is revenue. This graph equates to revenue over time. So a brand might obviously spend money on ads and keep spending more and more. So revenue slightly goes up like this, and it goes up slowly. But let's say they hit kind of a plateau here, so they can't kind of grow over this level of revenue. Obviously, revenue never stays stagnant, and e-commerce, it goes up and down over time. But let's say they kind of stay over this line right here, so they kind of hit a bump, a plateau here where they can't go up. So obviously, this means that going over this formula right here, if they want more revenue, they need to spend more money on ads, they need to test more stuff. So they start spending more money and they pour even more money in more. They double, triple, quadruple what they're spending. And obviously revenue causes to go up. So instead of having a plateau here, they start spending more and more. So revenue starts going up again. And maybe since they've doubled, tripled, and quadrupled the traffic and the eyeballs they get, revenue starts growing better. And it's not as low as before, start going higher and higher and higher. Let's say they hit another plateau here, where revenue just is stagnant and doesn't grow or go down, it just stays over the same level. And they again double, triple, quadruple what they're spending, they test more, they put out more creatives and stuff like this, and revenue starts going up and up and up, and it goes up maybe faster because the traffic is getting more and more and more, and so they are spending over time more and more money on ads. What happens here and what you're not looking at here, so what you're not seeing here is that they may be getting more revenue, they may be spending more on ads, they may be getting more traffic, more eyeballs, and in general they're seeing revenue go up. They're seeing the green arrows, the famous green arrows on Shopify or any other e-commerce platform. You see those, you're happy, revenue is going up, and all of that is good, and you're spending more money on ads and you're getting traffic and eyeballs and everything seems good. But what they're failing to see is that with all of this revenue going up, with all of the money they're spending on ads and they're using to test creatives and things like that, their marketing efficiency is going down faster and faster and faster. And what I mean by marketing efficiency is for every single dollar they put in advertisement, for every single dollar they use on ad platforms, the efficiency and the revenue and the profit they're getting back for each dollar they're spending is going down faster and faster and faster. And that means that profit is going down faster and faster and faster. So if we had to draw this on the graph, obviously it's not going to be super precise, but just to give you an idea, they start here where maybe their marketing efficiency is high up here, since they're not spending too much money on ads. They're getting kind of a good efficiency, they're getting a good return on their investment for what they're spending on ads. So let's say their efficiency is up in this spot right here. Here at the first plateau, they start spending more, so the efficiency starts going down. The money they're spending is less and less profitable, it's less and less efficient, so it goes down here. And then maybe at the second plateau, so we get to the second plateau, it starts going down even more. And at a certain point, the efficiency of the money you're putting in is just not valuable enough to make up for the revenue you're making. So even if you're making more revenue, at the end you're not as profitable as you want to be, or even less profitable than what you might have been here when you were getting less revenue, but even also spending less money on advertisement and on testing, all of that stuff. And so over time, efficiency goes down and down and down. And we have to remember in this that over time, the kind of trend for ad platforms for, let's say, customer acquisition costs, CPMs and things like that, the trend is for them to go up, and them going up is obviously bad because it means that you're spending the same money you're spending on ads maybe today or a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, are getting you less and less revenue, less and less customers. So the trend is for these to go up over time. Now you can obviously combat this with what I've mentioned before. If you test all of the stuff right here, and if you have a strategy in place for these things right here, obviously these things impact customer acquisition costs and CPMs. So you can kind of try to handle this by making sure that your angles are better, making sure that your creatives are better, making better ads, spending more money. But obviously you're not in full control of these, because you're not in full control of ad platforms, you're not in full control of Meta, of TikTok, of Google, of native ads. You're not in full control. You can influence them and get them to be as low as possible by putting full effort, making sure that your creative strategy and ad strategy is good, but you're not in full control of these. So now that we know all of these things, we also know that there are two things that we are far more in control of in e-commerce. And those two things, or those two metrics specifically, are conversion rate, so CVR, and that are super awful, and AOV. Conversion rate and AOV, we are far more in control of than customer acquisition costs and CPMs. We can influence them far more directly than how we can influence customer acquisition costs and CPMs. Now, the issue here is that brands fail to see how this impacts them. Obviously, the correlation is direct. If your CVR and your AOV go up, your revenue obviously directly goes up as a result. But if you, like, when you spend more on ads, when you test more creatives, more angles, use more influencers, you put more stuff out, you pour more money on ad spend, it just feels more like growth. That's why a lot of brands don't take this into consideration, then increasing your CVR and AOV is much easier and much simpler than increasing, obviously putting more money on ad spend, or it's not, probably the better word is not as easy, but it's far more impactful at scale, obviously over 7 figures a year, than just increasing how much you're spending on ads. And the point I'm making here is that you obviously can't ever think about stopping testing ads, testing creatives, testing angles. That's just the baseline. You need to do this. It's like what I'm saying here is you need to keep obviously testing creatives, testing ads, and all of that stuff, but you need to also take into account that all of the world that comes after the click. So here, all of this happens before the click. So advertisement is before the click and before they land on your funnel. But conversion rate and AOV actually happen after the click. This and this happen after people have seen your advertisement, after they've already decided that what they've seen, the creative you put out, the static you've put out, interests them, so they want to visit your funnel, they want to visit your store and see what you have in place. And the conversion rate and the AOV, you influence them after the click, you influence them at the funnel point. But a lot of brands fail to actually have a strategy in place. So they have a strategy in place to make their ads better, make their creatives and angles better over time, but they don't have a strategy to make their CVR and AOV better over time by optimizing their funnels. And this opens up a whole new world of optimizations and things you can test to make sure your revenue goes up and your conversion rate and AOV go up, to make your revenue go up, to make sure your marketing efficiency stays up and you are still profitable even if you keep spending ads. And also one thing that I need to mention here is increasing your conversion rate and increasing your AOV and testing your funnels and making sure they are performant and your efficiency is up. Also, literally directly helps you spending more money on ads and being more profitable on ads. So what does that mean is that CRO and optimizing and making sure your funnel and your store are performant helps you directly be more competitive and more aggressive on advertisement, because if you are more profitable, you are allowed and you can afford to spend and outspend your competition on advertisement to acquire customer and acquisition in general. And we know that the brand that is able to outspend its competition, it can afford to outspend its competition to acquire traffic and specifically cold acquisition, is the brand that will win and win that market segment. So this increasing your CVR, increasing your AOV, optimizing your store, optimizing your funnels literally directly helps you. So these two things right here directly help you spend more on ads and directly help you making sure that you can spend more on your strategy, you can spend more on your angles, your creatives and things like that. So making sure that these two are optimized and are up and are over, not just at the standard level, at the average level, at the level that all other brands are, but even higher and higher and higher. So what happens here is that you have a whole new world of optimizations to make and things you can think about. So you have your ads here. So someone clicks on your ad and lands, let's say in general on your funnel. So we have funnel in general here, but this funnel word can mean a host and a lot of different things. So this funnel word can contain a lot of different things. Let's make a kind of parenthesis like this. This can be directly your store, and your store can be, obviously, there's a lot of things under the kind of store banner. So let's make another one here. Your store can mean, for example, your PDPs. So you have PDP, you have collection pages. So you have collections, you have your cart, you have your checkout under here, you have a host and a lot of different pages that can go under the store, and there's even more than these, but these are just the ones that most brands have out there. This can mean for your funnel that you have advertorials, you have listicles in place, you have quiz funnels, so you have quizzes. Here you have bundle builders and things like that. You have post-purchase upsells, so you have all of the funnels that you have after purchase, post-purchase upsell, PPU, and all of these things obviously have a lot of different sub things to them, because probably after an advertorial, you're probably directing traffic to a sales page maybe, and there's this is one thing that I actually forgot. So sales LP, and I also need to add it here, sales pages, all of these things. So there are a lot, like a host of different things that you can think about here, but most brands make the mistake of like testing here, starting obviously having the creative strategy to test all of their advertisement, all of the stuff here, but all of the things that are over here, so all of this stuff right here, all of this world that's like beyond the funnel and beyond the first click on the advertisement, it just impacts far more your conversion rate and AOV, which in turn impact far more your advertisement and specifically your marketing efficiency. So instead of having your marketing efficiency going down and down and down, you can keep it far higher for far more time if you just test stuff out, and if you just increase your conversion rate and AOV with structured split testing and structured CRO over time. And the great thing about CRO is that you can directly measure its impact. So if you have, let's say, variant A and variant B, so you are split testing here, you have a 50-50 split between the two, and variant A is converting at a certain percentage and variant B is converting at a certain percentage that's, let's say, for example, 25% higher than the original variation, the control variation, which is A, you know that this is directly caused from the change you made in the B variation, because you obviously need to single out changes and make sure that changes are singled out when you split test. You know that it's directly relative to the fact that you made that change in B, because the traffic being sent to both of them, so the traffic being sent here to A and the traffic being sent here to B, is the same traffic as the traffic that's coming from your ads, it's traffic that's coming from all of the creatives and stuff you're putting out. So the traffic here is the same, the source is the same, it's ads. So you pour all of the traffic in both of the variations. B performs better. You know that B is performing better directly because of the change you made in this variation. So the impact that this has is directly measurable. It directly results in revenue at the end of the day. So here you have, for example, a certain amount of revenue. You have, let's say 1, and here you have a certain amount of revenue. Let's say that's bigger because you're converting at a better percentage. Obviously, you need to take into account AOV and all of that stuff. And both of them, the metrics combined, make up revenue per visitor, which is the ultimate metric we're looking at to make sure both conversion rate and AOV are better and are more impactful in the B variation. But at the end, you have directly measurable revenue impact between both of those. So you make the difference between the two and you see how much B and the variation in B actually added and actually helped you scale and increase your metrics. Even let's say if variation B loses, so let's count, for example, that variation B is not helping in any way, actually it's hurting your conversion. So let's make the case that B here is red and it's decreasing your conversion rate by 10%. So we have a 10% decrease in conversion rate here, and so this means that here we also have less revenue. So here, instead of 1 and 2, let's say we have 2 here, and here it only comes out to 1, and you make the difference, and this is generating less revenue. Here, obviously, if you're making this change, you know that it's not helpful, you know that it's not impacting your metrics in a good way, then you're just going to not use the variation, and this is what we call loss avoidance. If you made this change, if you implemented this change on your store, change that you made in B, without testing it and without knowing that the effect was reducing your conversion rate by 10%, you would have never done this, and it would have resulted to you getting this amount of revenue instead of this amount of revenue, which is bigger. So in both cases, if you win tests, if you lose tests, in both cases you get an ROI. First one in terms of revenue and direct impact on your metrics. Second one in terms of loss avoidance of you not implementing stuff that you know is going to hurt your metrics. Now, if your ecom brand does over 7 figures a year in revenue, and with this video, I've convinced you that there is a clear trackable ROI with CRO and with split testing, and you want to start, but you don't know where to start, then in the first link in the description, you can book a free 30-minute discovery call with me. And over the call, I'm going to show you how you can implement our strategy that has helped 7 and 8 figure brands increase their conversion rate, AOV, and overall profitability, and add 7 figures in revenue, and how we can apply this same strategy to your brand. Then I'm going to show you that over the free discovery call. Again, you can book that in the first link in the description. If you want to implement this strategy for yourself and you have enough time to keep it up over time, over the long term, then in the second link in the description, you can get subscribed to my email list. And in the first email, you'll get a 60-page PDF on how you can implement the strategy from A to Z and how we do it for the brands we work with. Besides that, I'll send 3 weekly emails where I show you the strategies we use inside the agency in real time and the tests we run for our clients to increase conversion rate and AOV. So you can get subscribed also for those weekly emails. See you in the next video.